Well, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say we're not going to see any sort of tropical activity over the next week. That's at least what the National Hurricane Center is thinking. But remember, today is the first day of hurricane season. We have 21 names on the list from Arthur all the way down to Wilfred. Remember, Q, U, X, Y, and Z. There just aren't enough names. That's why they don't have any there. I'm sorry to all the Quintins out there. There will never be a Hurricane Quintin. But remember, we've only exhausted this list twice. Once in 2005, that was Katrina, Wilma, Rita, those years, or that year with those storms. And then also again in 2020, I think we had 30 named storms, and we ended up retiring some Greek names. Hence why we don't use Greek names anymore. There's actually now a second backup list with more American, or I should say English, French, and Spanish names. Now, our outlook appears to be below average, and a big reason why is because of El Nino. I'll explain in just a bit, but NOAA, that is the body that, of course, is the umbrella organization for the National Hurricane Center there. They're calling for a near average or slightly below average season, 8 to 14 named storms compared to the average of 14. We usually average about 7 hurricanes, 3 to 6, so they're calling for 1 to 3 major hurricanes, that is category 3 or higher. Typically we see about 3 any given year. So what is El Nino? Basically, it is just a warming of water off the Pacific coast of South America. You may be asking, James, how does that affect the Atlantic? Well, it amplifies trade winds, those east to west winds just north of the equator that can disrupt hurricane formation. That's a big reason why La Nina, which is the opposite effect, it weakens those trade winds, why we typically see more named storms versus El Nino here in the orange. And typically during El Nino years, we do end up with slightly below average seasons. Now, of course, they can vary from year to year. It's not gospel that this will be a below average year. And always keep in mind, it just takes one named storm for this to be a memorable year. Remember Chantal last year, of course, Helene the year before that. And the thing is, we want to pay attention to June because while typically we don't see any sort of devastating storms, we often see them kind of in our backyard, these homegrown storms, the eastern Gulf up towards the Gulf Stream, that narrow, thin, warm belt of water that stretches from Florida all the way up the Atlantic coast. And again, these storms, while they're typically not the strongest, they certainly can cause damage. And we'll make sure to keep you weather-wise if and when any form. We typically see about 1 named storm in June every other year. Now, keep in mind, hurricane season, it's long. It stretches from June 1st, today, all the way into November 30th, that peak arriving between late August into early October. Usually mid-September is that peak. Looking at your 7-day forecast here, no tropical systems in sight. We will see a few non-tropical showers and storms this afternoon. It could linger into your Tuesday morning, but then in comes the dry air, and that means sun, 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 fun, fun, fun. And it's going to be hot, hot, hot too. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, back into the 90s.